tremendously important to recognize that there has to be ideological defense, right? We have to defend what we believe in, and that defense has to be logically grounded, rationally grounded. And for those who seek to destroy or undermine, and when I say we, I mean we, whoever you are. And for those who seek to destroy our way of life, your way of life, what we need to do, and I'm talking specifically now to theorists, to academics, what we need to do is we need to undermine their justification. You're not justified in believing X, and here's why. And make sure that their people read that pamphlet. Then initiate propagandization, and there you go. It's a party. It's a party. Yeah. So the emphasis, however, rests in the notion of intentionality, which is a very difficult theoretical concept to describe. Trust me, I know. Sometimes bad things happen to good people. Sometimes good people do bad things. Right? Direct quote. Right? So sometimes bad things happen to good people, and sometimes good people do bad things. The idea in terms of intentionality, and now we're talking about the relationship between intentionality and state ideology. Have fun writing that book, Jason. Yeah, I mean, it's a quagmire. It's very, very difficult, right? Because there's a constant. There needs to be a constant in order for the ideology to have meaningful functioning. There's going to be the debate on what that constant is. But it's precisely the case in terms of a strategic defense, ideological defense. The argument would be, or should be, I would argue, for whatever country you live in, it is precisely the case that since our country has this ideological affiliation, that makes threat so realized. Because the threat isn't necessarily a threat against anything other than, right, the way in which we believe. We believe in X. And because we believe in X, whatever it is that your country believes in, that belief in X motivates everything that you see. It's the buildings, it's the people, it's the education. Our beliefs are manifest within what you see, what you do. You know what I believe. 99.99% of my time is spent doing lecture series, writing books, reading notes, constructing notes. It's education. What do I believe in? You know what I believe in. It's here. What does the United States believe in? We believe in this stuff. What does Britain believe in? They believe in that stuff. What does Afghanistan believe in? They believe in that stuff, right? We believe in the things that manifest within our sovereignty. And the idea is the attack on the nation isn't just an attack on the people. It was more than the destruction of the buildings and the loss of 3,000 people's lives. I mean, that is horrific in itself. I mean, that is horrific in itself. But the idea is it was an attack on, the feeling of what it is to be American. We're an economic powerhouse. You destroyed our symbols of economic prowess. It was an attack on the fact, and I heard that, I don't remember how many Muslims died in the building, but it was an attack on the heterogeneity of our culture. Because it wasn't just one type of person that died in that building. All different types of people. Atheists and believers, Christians and Muslims, Jews, Gentiles, you name it. Everybody, I mean, people died in that. So it's an attack on that. That pisses people off. Right? And assaults on your country, to your countrymen, should, to a sense, piss you off. Now, if you're not going to go and join the military services, you join intelligence, and you end up becoming a bureaucratic professor like me, that doesn't mean that you still can't make your contribution to try and defend the things that you hold dear, right? The idea is, no, there needs to be theoretical, intellectual approach to contribute to the security of your respective nations. And who's going to do it other than the academics? This is our job. This is what we do. It requires this level of training and much, much more, way more than I'm going to be able to give you in this lecture series, but it requires this, at least this much, in order to make any type of meaningful contribution, right? Because believe that the people who are in intelligence have been doing this since the inception of the nation. They've been doing this for a very, very long time, so they know this stuff well. And to meaningfully contribute to what it is your respective intelligence communities are doing, you're not going to be able to do it being a half-rate, second-tier theorist. It's not going to happen. you're gonna flatter yourself like you're really making contributions, and none of it's really gonna find its way into making meaningful, effective change. Not that you would ever know that it found its way into making meaningful, effective change anyway, right? So you can't be motivated on that sort of pride at all, because you'll never have verification of it. All right, number two, in terms of risk assessment, and I have to give it up to my battery. It's holding up. Risk management, right? Ultimately, a process, right? The idea of risk management is a process. This phrase is sort of a really heavy financial phrase, insurance-based phrase. We think of risk management in sort of that sense. Take insurance to manage for potential flood damage, or diversify your portfolio so that if there's a crash in Wall Street, you don't lose all your money. Right? So we think about risk management in not assessment, but risk management, usually in more sort of business economic terms. But I think it's important to recognize that the existing discourse on risk management in business should find its way into national security interests, not in terms of securing money, but the conceptual framework with which not to deny that either, but the conceptual framework with which the idea of risk management has been articulated within the business community, within the financial community, within economics, it works to a great extent. Why would we try to reinvent the wheel? Go to those disciplines, read their canonical articles, their canonical publications on risk management, and distill from that the meta-analytic aspects of the analysis to incorporate something genuinely unique to national security interests. But don't try and reinvent it. Go there. Those are the dudes that talk about risk management. Distill from their existing discourse the functional aspects of their paradigm, that is risk management, and incorporate it meaningfully into national security interests. So risk management prima facie seeks to, one, identify functioning of the system, right? So in terms of risk management then, you can't really talk about management unless you understand what you're managing. And what you're managing is a system. You're managing a financial system. You're managing a human-based system. Now, what we're managing is a national system. You can imagine how difficult managing, just saying it sounds insane. You can imagine how difficult managing a national system is. It's a lot of parts. It's a lot of parts. And all of the parts, to some degree, are integrated. Some more so than others. Right? So you have integrated, to varying degrees, systems functioning in concert to facilitate some national ideology. That's pretty heavy. That's extremely heavy, right? That's not easy, right? So the first thing that you need to recognize is the functioning of the system. Right? You got to know what the system does, how the system functions, what's the intake, what's the outtake, what's the outcome, what's the goals, what's the motivations, what's the incentives, who are in positions to make power decisions, blah, blah, blah. What you need to know. You got to know. So, you start from basics and understand the system. If you're going to write this in a publication, then you need to divulge to the reader the functioning of the system so they have an understanding, because it's precisely after you describe the functioning of the system, having already described the parts of the system, that you then go back to that sort of already existing narrative, and you start to destabilize bits. Here's why this part's weak. Here's how this part relates to this part, and here's how you can destabilize that, and on and on and on and on. That's how this works, conceptually. Number two, anticipate potential. This is exactly the point, right? Anticipate potential weaknesses, right? Number three, create controlled conditions. Say that 10 times fast. Create controlled conditions to allow the system to fail, a controlled failure. Allow the system to decay. Allow the system to break, right? This bit is difficult. Some people will take this literally, some people won't. It's not my incentive, it's not my intent to tell you or encourage you to destroy your system. If you destroy your system, good luck with that. You're going to have to be held accountable, not me. But the idea is, I think about in terms of talking about genocide, the atrocity of genocide, I had to put myself in a conceptual sort of space to think about for a number of years.